Hello there! In this video we're going to discuss how Andor changed New Hope and if it actually improved the story or if it ruined it. Let's go! As you can see today we have my cat here visiting and he just do whatever he wants, let him be. Also I tried to make something more fun with my hair and it was an epic fail. But at least it's different, so let's just pretend it's not too ridiculous. It's just a little bit ridiculous, okay? Let's move on with the video. So, did Andor change New Hope? Of course. I mean, it's a new entry to the story, it's add context, it introduces new characters, new layers, so on, so on, so on. So of course it's going to change New Hope or the viewer perception of New Hope. I mean, New Hope is the same, but our perception of the events of that movie might shift a little bit. And I think whether it ruins or improves it depends on your entry point into Star Wars. Number one, it depends what was the first Star Wars experience you had. And secondly, it depends on your personal taste. So let's explore those two possibilities, okay? And then at the end, I'll tell you my experience if Andor ruined or improved New Hope for me personally. By the way, this video is going to be full of spoilers about Star Wars, Andor, Rogue One, all of it. So just, you know, okay? You're warned. So if your entry point into Star Wars is the original trilogy or even the prequels, whatever, if you have already seen the original story, you already have some kind of emotional attachment to those movies and you go to see Andor, then I don't think Andor will ruin New Hope for you. It's going to make you see it differently, and I think you'll have similar experience to mine, which I'm going to talk about it at the end. But if you start with Andor, if Andor is the first thing you see, if your entry point is Andor into Star Wars in general, and then you watch Rogue One, the transition is rather seamless. Rogue One starts to change the tone, it introduces more about the Force, you see Darth Vader at the end. But then when you go into New Hope, and if you are used to the tone of Andor, you know, and you go into this adventure, which is, you know, just more lighthearted, let's say, yeah, you might be a little bit disappointed, but I feel like people are allowed to have different tastes in the sense that we're allowed to like different things. It's not given that if you like the more mature tone of Andor, you automatically would not like New Hope. I mean, we like different stories. We can like crime drama and we can like comedy, you know. Yeah, it's strange to have this shift of genre in the same storyline, but I think that's kind of unique to Star Wars and maybe unique even to the modern franchises, that you have this kind of shifts of focus, of tone between the stories. But I think it's okay because it's the same story, but it shifts focus and it changes its main characters, you know? Like you have this outgoing battle against the Empire, but you have different characters you follow. Like Cassian is more about the rebellion, the everyday people of the world and their problems. It's TV series, it's more slow paced. Like in this world, there's no Jedi and no Force. The Jedi are kind of a myth. They have been killed, you know? It's not like everybody is meeting Darth Vader around, you know, he's maybe just some kind of a rumored evil guy over there. Like even inside the Empire, like it's not like he's coming to work every day. Like, hello guys, how are you? You know, he appears only when the situation requires him. Like at the end of Rogue One, he appears, which means things are getting serious, you know. If you look at it that way, like the rebellion is starting to build up, you know, you have all these people coming together, but it's maybe not so important enough for the Empire to take it seriously. And then they steal the Death Star plans, which is like, oh, that's our greatest weapon, this is serious. So they send in Darth Vader because these rebels are now like being so bold and attacking the Empire and stealing from them. And so the Empire is worried because this weapon is something they have been creating for 20 years, you know. It's their big thing. So it makes sense that now, as the struggle of these everyday people accumulates so much that it becomes such a big and serious problem that the big guys, like the aristocracy of Star Wars, like Darth Vader is there coming in. And as Darth Vader is coming in, the rebels are bringing in Obi-Wan Kenobi. They're like, oh, we have to ask for Obi-Wan. We reach the point where we are going full force against the Empire. We have this very important information. We need Obi-Wan's help because now we're going to go against Darth Vader and maybe the Emperor himself. We need Obi-Wan. So it makes sense that things accumulate and then they escalate to the higher ups, and the higher ups are Darth Vader. And for the rebellion, it's like, let's bring Obi-Wan, like this mythological knight. And then Obi-Wan is like, okay, this is the will of the Force. It's time for Luke to join the fight. You know, it's that serious now. We cannot lose any more time. And then the story now passes from the small everyday people to those who have more power and who are not more important, but who part in the story is crucial. Like the fact that they got Luke helped them, you know, because if it wasn't for Luke, they wouldn't be able to blow up the Death Star, you know. So now Luke is into the mix, and the story becomes this again mythological fight between good and evil, and then the family dynamics of the Skywalkers becomes crucial to this fight. Still, you still have the rebels fighting. You still have them continuing their struggle against the Empire. It's just the focus on the story shifts. But because it's become so gradual and because it just feels like separate stories in the same universe, like you have history events and you just focus on different historical figures, let's say, I think it's okay. I think even if you start with Andor, you can still kind of fell into the world. You might become interested in the Jedi, and even if maybe this is not your cup of tea, you might be interested to see what's going to happen with the rebellion. How are they going to win over the Empire? And then maybe it's not going to be with the same impact as Andor, but people are not stupid. I mean, you see those old movies, and subconsciously you'll be expecting less, you know. You will be like, if you dispense your disbelief, you can just enjoy them. So my idea is that the fact that Andor is more serious, more mature, more gritty, it doesn't necessarily ruins movies who are with different tone. On the contrary, it could bring in people who might otherwise not pay attention to Star Wars, who might otherwise think that Star Wars is for kids, and they can like enjoy it, you know. Of course, they might not. They might like, okay, that's it. I don't want to know any more about the Jedi or that crap. I'm just Andor fan. Which is okay. You got the point. I think that even for people who might prefer the tone of Andor, I don't think it necessarily will ruin New Hope. I feel like there is hope for them to like it. Now, I want to tell you what was my personal experience with watching Andor and Rogue One and A New Hope. My entry point into Star Wars was the original trilogy, so I feel like nothing could ever ruin that. Like, no way. It just cannot happen. And I don't think it's just nostalgia. I think it's just the original trilogy. It's just a fun movie. It's just a good movie, you know? And the idea that some movie has to be super serious or dark or gritty to be good, no. You can have a good movie which is more adventurous, but still enjoyable, you know? But Andor did change some things in my viewing experience, and I will want to address them. So when I finished Andor Season 2, I, of course, had to go immediately and to watch Rogue One. Because just the ending of Andor, it's, you know, you have this urge to keep watching because the story feels unfinished. So I watched Rogue One, and I think certain elements fit perfectly. Like in the beginning of Rogue One, Cassian goes to meet with, how was his name? My mind is slow today. So he meets with that guy, and when the guy mentions Urso, and he's like, oh, whoa, he reacts exactly how we would expect him because he heard that name already, and the information is still fresh in his mind. And some of his comments about when Jyn Urso is like trying to convince everyone to believe her, and Cassian's kind of reaction is like, oh, they will never believe you. And that's all kind of logical continuation of what happened, right? So it connects quite well, like it focuses on Cassian and this mission which has to happen very quickly because they don't have much time. And it's really nice entry into New Hope. Of course, there is some change to the way you see, I think, Cassian and Jyn Erso's relationship, but that's another topic. But it's not like a big change. It's more like you can see whatever you want. There's a lot of vagueness in certain scenes and certain things that I think fans can interpret them as they like, which is good. You can enjoy what you want. But the thing that I found kind of fun is when New Hope started, I saw Luke a bit differently, not in a bad way, but I haven't seen New Hope in a few years. I watch the movies every couple of years because I want to have more space in between. Oh, sometimes maybe I watch them more often. Depends on the mood. But the thing is, when I saw Luke, he felt, maybe because I'm older, but he felt like so young and so naive and so enthusiastic and the way he should be, right? That's who he is. But compared to all the dark morale of the previous movies, compared to everybody, like compared to Andor, even the prequels, Luke is like, oh, I'm here on this planet cleaning droids, and he felt so innocent, kind of so optimistic and so young, and I kind of like that. He's very endearing, and he, I think, represents very well the young person who is ready to jump into the fight and who is idealistic, and those kind of people really bring the fight forward, right? They really continue the work of those before them, and Luke was this fresh blood to the rebellion, this young, naive, idealistic guy. And I felt like he brought a lot of energy and kind of positivity into the story, which was kind of pleasant, you know? I don't know how to explain it. Because you had this story where everyone was so already tired of this fight, already damaged, already traumatized, and almost at the edge of their strength, you know? And so when you have these people, it's always good when new recruitment comes, when fresh blood comes, when younger people come and they're like bringing the enthusiasm and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to fight, I'm jumping into the fight, and that kind of uplifts everything and everyone around them. So a few people were kind of arguing online if what happened in Rogue One kind of ruins the end of New Hope, because at the end of New Hope there is this big celebration and Luke and Hannah getting rewards. I don't know why everybody is always arguing about these rewards. First, people were like, oh, wait, Chewbacca is not having a medal. And now, why are only they having a medal and not everyone else? It's like... For me, it's okay, because this was the victory that Luke and Han achieved. Obviously, they're gonna get a medal. This made sense, because the focus of that story was Luke and Han. You can make your own headcanon that maybe in this ceremony there was a part where Cassian and Jyn were mentioned, when people said, oh, we appreciate everyone who sacrificed something for us to be able to destroy the Death Star. Definitely they were probably a part of it, but you imagine the movie ends and there's 10 minutes speeches about the sacrifice of everyone, like, come on. But you can add this in some kind of a separate story in your own canon, you know, it's fine. No, it's fine. But the fact that they blew up the Death Star now was like, I was really like, yeah, finally. It felt like all the effort of those people in Rogue One and in Andor had this culmination. The tension was even bigger, because it wasn't just some, the stakes seemed higher. So I was even more excited when they destroyed the Death Star. So I think for me, Andor did improve New Hope, but it kind of gave me the slight desire that I wish we had another series that follows all these events more closely. What happens after New Hope, how are the rebels regrouping and the Empire is chasing them. I have read a few comics that kind of follow those events. It's always kind of interesting times. Like, I feel like this is one of the most interesting times, and the way we had the Clone Wars, I feel it would be fun if we had another series following Luke, Leia, and Han and the other rebels and the other characters in this period. But just hypothetically, because I feel like if they do it, I don't know if they can do it well. But hypothetically, like, I would love to have the original story in the format of Andor with the original cast, because I feel it's going to be unnatural to exclude the original cast like Luke, Leia, and Han. I feel like it's going to be interesting to have them and Mon Mothma and some of the other characters from Andor meet and fight against the Empire, and that just feels like it's going to be a cool story. And it's going to be cool if we had it like a live action with the same care, attention to detail as Andor. But again, this is just wishful thinking. I don't necessarily want them to do it. Yeah, just I imagine it and I feel like it was going to be cool. Yeah, I think it's curious how stories kind of, especially in this case of Star Wars, it was one of the first brands, or how to call it, stories that had this format with starting with the kind of the end and go back into the beginning, and the way the prequels kind of changed the original trilogy. It's also interesting. Yeah, there could be some inconsistencies that kind of are created in this way. Like, for example, Leia remembering her mother, and then we see that she kind of really didn't have much time with her. But you can say like she had dreams of her with the Force or something. You can always invent a way to go around this kind of plot holes. But yeah, the way the prequels changed the original trilogy, it's quite curious case of storytelling, right? And now the way those series like Andor and Rogue One can change again, the canon can shift our understanding. It's interesting also because it makes the old content fresh. Like if you watch New Hope now, it's gonna be a little bit different. And also after the Obi-Wan show, like whether you like it or not, it changes the dynamic between Obi-Wan and Vader in the New Hope. So every time a new entry into the Star Wars comes, it makes you want to rewatch the other content in the new context. So this always adds a bit more. It always changes a bit more. I mean, you can argue if it improves or not, but it changes it. And so every time you watch it, time you watch New Hope with the new context, it becomes different. You know, that's the interesting thing about context. Like putting a story into a different context can change the same thing, the same scene, the same line. It shows how much interpretation can influence a story, in the sense that like you watch New Hope before knowing anything about Anakin, it's completely different and your perception is different. Then you get new information and you're like, oh, but that can mean something else. The curious thing about Star Wars is how those added shows and stories change each other, how the whole story shifts around those pieces. Is it for bad or for good? I don't know. For me, Andor was a good piece. It was an improvement. It was fun, and I wonder how it's for you. How did Andor change New Hope for you? Did you find it different in some way? And you can check my other Star Wars videos. I'm making like a Star Wars month on my channel after Andor. I made this channel to talk about books, but I'm just interested in stories in general. So if it's books or movies, I mean, if it interested me, I want to talk about it. So I hope you don't mind. Let me know what you like, what you don't like about the videos. That helps me a lot. That's my cat again. He's sleeping. Can I show him here? Let me see. He's sleeping there. Easy life. Cat's life. That's it. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.